The inability to identify, name, and manage emotion. Pretty straightforward stuff, right? I mean, like we all should be able to do that.
Would you say this shows up more in the church than the rest of society, or less? Do you have any thoughts on that?
If you would just sit with her for 15 minutes and really actively listen, my goodness, this fire could be put out. Are there power and control issues, intention to regain control, regain power? There's a dominance in the relationship.
Because it's dying of this false self that you don't know you created, but the shame feels like dying.
It's not real.
Yeah,
But what's dying is the not real person, right? It's the image.
Yes.
What's the difference between children who become compliant versus children who become defiant in these homes under the age of 10? Is there a big differentiator? Because I think some kids do, become compliant and some defy. Do you see that difference?
Balanced. How to be emotionally balanced. I love the concept of pretending, not pretending, and have an emotional integrity. What is really happening here? Can we talk about what's happening in the family? Can we talk about what's happening inside of us? And this takes a lot of work. It's very sophisticated.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Furiously Curious Show. I'm super excited to have Dr. Hawkins back on the show and his colleague, Ernest Hart. Dr. Hawkins and I did a podcast recently, episode 38, if you guys haven't listened to it, titled The Pandemic of Emotionally Immature Men, Why Men Stay Boys, which now has over 90,000 downloads and over 3,000 comments on it. And so it did really well, really hit a nerve with a lot of people. And so I was talking to him about that over email, and he suggested, let's do another episode, but more focused on the impact of emotional abuse on the family. So thank you for coming back on. And Ernest, welcome.
Absolutely.
As well.
Thank you.
So, Ernest, I know I read online you've worked with families as a certified interventionist, helping them heal and regain hope. And you specialize in family systems that involve addictions, mental health challenges, and traumatic upbringings, and has a deep understanding of the impact challenges of a challenging family history. And you're also trained in motivational interviewing, a tool to help people overcome ambivalence to change. I didn't know that was even a thing that you could do, so that's cool. But what I thought was most interesting in your bio was that you describe yourself as a recovering from being married to a narcissistic spouse, which when I was reading all the comments of my last interview with Dr. Hawkins, the comments were 99% from women who were very angry and upset, and also could easily very much relate to what we were sharing. And so just off the top, I wanted to ask you a question, Ernest. Is it more common that you guys also deal with the women being narcissistic and have emotional abuse of tendencies, or maybe speak to that?
Yeah, so I think what's happening right now is that because there's a dynamic of power or control that husbands, fathers naturally have financially, spiritually, that we see a lot more men than women. I think that a lot of men don't even know what it feels like to be in that type of relationship and understanding what's happening to them. And so there is probably a backlog of men who experience this on the other side of it that have not even thought to reach out for help and to know there's a way to navigate this. And so they just do what they need to do. They put their head down and maybe they continue to do what they can to let the family flourish, but they don't really understand what they're going through. And maybe their friend circle isn't able to help them identify that. Now, it's changing now. I think social media and all of the sound bites and conversations that are being had, it helps people to get closer to what's happening to them and what's the void or the absence of the relationship. But I think because women more easily are drawn to the absence of that. They need the connection. They're looking for the connection. They're aware when the connection's lost, much more than men are. Then they're tracking it and they're really aware of when it's absent, aware of when it's wrong, aware of when it's off. more so than men are. Men would have to slow down and really get in touch
Mm.
with their feelings to find out
Yeah.
that there's an absence. Yeah.
So what was happening in your world that you've realized, hey, my wife is narcissistic?
So normal things that would normally connect, I found her protecting herself from. So bringing her flowers, making an amends, apology, any opening of softness or vulnerability was a challenge for her. And so there was things that were happening that weren't naturally what follows in a relationship. And I started to go, I don't know if this is just bad relating. There's something else going on. It's not just problems in marriage. There's a deeper issue where there's a lack of genuine connection. It's like we were faking it. You know, there
Mm.
was pretending going on. I didn't know these words would apply back then, but I knew there was something that wasn't authentic. It didn't feel right. And I was looking for that because I had been working on myself to be the best husband I could be.
Do you have an
So I'm always
example?
prompted. Um, so flowers is an example. Like bringing home flowers meant that I wanted to be connected or vulnerable, but in her mind, those flowers meant was going to have to open up into a space that was really uncomfortable for her. So she would generate fights or problems to get in the
Mm.
way of us getting closer.
Create distance.
Create distance. It would be like, hey, well, what are you doing that for? What about deflecting to some other issue that had nothing to do with today? And so, therefore, we never got to the healing path of connection. It was about the next thing and the next thing and the next
Mm.
thing to be in the way of the connection.
It's like intimacy anorexia.
Yeah, yeah, there was something at play about intimacy that was really scary for her.
Okay, interesting. And Dr. Hawkins, you guys mainly deal with men though, right? Like in this on these issues.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as Ernest said, women are the ones tracking what's going on in the relationship. And so, interestingly enough, Kyle, I mean, I would say, Ernest, you can speak to this. The average age of people, it's women who are calling our agency, and they're 45, 50, 55, 60 years old. So it's been a cumulative impact. So by
Mm.
the time they reach us, these women, I mean, men aren't. They aren't so much exhausted. Like you said, like Ernest said, they're not so much tracking how is the intimacy going, but women, boy, they are tracking, and it's cumulative. They're feeling the impact, and it takes a toll on them emotionally, physically, and in every way. So by the time they're 45, 50 years old, and we're going to talk about this today, we're going to talk about the impact on the family, but the kids have been impacted now, the family has been impacted, and the caretaker of the family, boy, she is really feeling it now. Now she's
Mm.
50 years old. The kids are 18, 22, and 24 years old, or something like that. And now, boy, things have disintegrated. And now she's really, really feeling it. So, yeah, now
Yeah.
I would say 9 out of 10 of the callers are women. And by the time a man calls, he's in trouble. He's in deep, deep doo doo, and now he'll pick up the phone.
Yeah.
But boy, and of course we're saying like, where have you been? Yeah,
Yeah.
well, she left me. She filed for divorce, and I thought I should probably give you a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to cover how this emotional abuse and narcissistic tendencies impact the family. But before we get there, Dr. Hawkins, can you just do a recap on what emotional abuse is?
Yeah, boy, I can do a recap, Kyle, and Ernest knows I think about this a lot. So, and this podcast is not about relabeling narcissism, but as I think about it, Kyle, so many things that we call narcissism are really emotional immaturity. What does that look like? That looks like the inability to identify, name, and manage emotion. Pretty straightforward stuff, right? I mean, like we all should be able to do that. Not so much men. So they don't manage emotion very well. They're not very self-aware. As Ernest already said, they're not aware of what's going on in the relationship. Their EQ is incredibly
Mm.
low. I mean, men. These 50-year-old men are very accomplished, Kyle,
Yeah,
in many many ways.
I had a guy reach out to me after our last interview, and he was a doctor out in the United States somewhere, a
We
family doctor, and he said
we
that he was just like, he's a very accomplished guy. I was actually dumbfounded he reached out to me, and how he was describing his home life was like there was just he was not getting it.
we see so many accomplished men, whether they're businessmen or doctors or lawyers or whatever. I mean, they're very accomplished typically, but low on empathy. It doesn't mean the good news in all of this. And again, we're not going off on this tangent, but the good news is emotional immaturity can be treated more effectively than narcissism, and maybe that's another podcast for us. But emotional immaturity, limited self-awareness, limited understanding of emotions of self and others, impulsive childish behaviors. So when they're hurt, when they're wounded, they act out or they act in. They go to alcohol, or they get angry, or they do any number of damaging things. And so now their reaction is what's causing the problem in the relationship. It's like, sir, if you would just sit with her for 15 minutes and really actively listen, my goodness, this fire could be put out. Okay, anyway, so emotional immaturity, lack of self-awareness, lack of awareness of others, lack of awareness of feelings, lack of management of impulses. And it comes out then in destructive behavior, and harm is done. And now you do that cumulatively, harm being done again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And Ernest will talk about this today, without repair. And that's another thing men are notoriously bad at. Notoriously.
Yeah.
So, and those are building blocks to relationship. I mean, those
And
are just like,
yeah.
that's kindergarten and first grade stuff that we should be learning, and we're not.
And how do you know if your spouse is just emotionally immature versus narcissistic? Because I know I've heard a lot of women label their husbands as narcissistic because they have narcissistic tendencies. And it's easy to do after watching a couple of reels, or just sneak a clip off of a podcast to do that. So is there anything specific that you point at to be like, no, I think you're just
Yeah.
uneducated in this area?
There are some differentiators, but I want to just make it incredibly clear to everyone. It's difficult to differentiate it. I mean,
Hmm.
it takes a real keen listening ear. What do we want to listen for? Well, we want to listen for, are there power and control issues, intention to regain control, regain power? There's a dominance in the relationship, as opposed to covert narcissism or emotionally immature men. You don't see so much of that. They're just childlike. But power and control issues, a deep sense of inadequacy that they will not, cannot, do not talk about. But if
Yeah.
you listen for it, you kind of get it. And then one last thing I will say, in addition to lacking empathy and issues with entitlement and power and control, we see the grandiosity. And we all know, we can name people in our world who, like, whoa, they are grandiose individuals. And when they walk in the room, you feel them. Emotionally immature people, not necessarily so. And typically only when their feathers are ruffled. So, I mean, we're working with a lot of nice men.
Hmm.
But when their feathers are ruffled. So anyway, we want to look at those. Ernest, do you want to add anything to differentiators?
Yeah, I say that how shame is dealt with is really key. I think when I see
Yeah.
someone feeling shame, how they process shame, there may be the little boy that is emotionally immature that deals with shame, and it's difficult for them, but they're not as adamant that it is the other person's fault. They have a way of coming around, whether clunkily, like saying that they know they did something wrong. But narcissism seems to have a resilience against that and saying, nope, you did it wrong.
Yep.
Nope, it was you.
Yep.
Hmm.
Nope, I'm not going to cave. I'm going to collapse into myself and say, you're hurting me way more than I'm hurting you, as a paradigm that they live
Hmm.
in. How dare you? That's maybe part of the grandiosity, but there's a level of and this tends to emotional. speaks emotional abuse is like your effect on me is higher than my effect on you. Matter of fact,
Yep.
my effect on you is minimal compared to your huge effect on me. And kind of seeing everyone and everything like that. When there's narcissism, it's, I can't believe you would dare do that to me. How
Yeah.
dare you do that to me? Or I can't believe you'd say that about me. How dare you say that about me? It's like a how dare you instead of a just I'm hurt or I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
So there's some level of distinction when I hear someone be so resistant, and how they fight themselves out of a conflict is very telling.
Yeah.
What kind of word choice they use, what defense mechanisms they use, right? Dr. Hawkins, there's specific ways that you go, whoa, that's narcissistic. And it's kind
Yeah.
of that
So
too.
to add to what Ernest is saying, Kyle, that's true. So when we differentiate, so if we're thinking about somebody who's really deeply ingrained narcissistic, yeah, they're going to have a rigidity to any kind of ownership. It surprises people, and it surprises me that it surprises people. Our groups are filled with men, and so people say, "What? What? You're treating narcissistic men, and there's a man who will come and really participate?" We're filled. We've got dozens and dozens and dozens of men in our programs. Why? Because actually they fall in the category of emotional immaturity more than they're on the continuum of NPD. So to Ernest's point, there's a rigidity and like, nope, nope, I didn't do it, not going to own it. It's you, it's you. Okay, that's the narcissistic individual. The people, the men that are emotionally immature, there is a coming around. I like your word, Ernest, clunkily coming around. I mean, they are 6-year-olds. Nonetheless, they are 6-year-old, and a 6-year-old doesn't do "I'm
Yeah.
sorry" real well, but 6 can grow into 7, can grow into 8, and anyway, that's what we
Yeah.
see happening.
Yeah. And Ernest, I know you have some background in the church as a pastor, I believe. Would you say this shows up more in the church than the rest of society, or less? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the environment of the church and the way it's structured, especially more rigid philosophies or ways of practicing their faith. You think about more conservative, the more conservative it gets, the more it feels like that's a place where rules are going to hold them in their character and they can prove that they're a good person, right? So, always looking to see validation against a set of rules. And so, if the rules are more clear, then I can point out when you should be shamed about it, and I can be validated for following them. And so it does potentially grow this type of behavior in the world because I want to be seen as good. Where can I learn to be seen as good? Church. I can learn the ways of organizing myself so that I can, the false self can be acceptable.
Yeah.
It's really that, I think that simple in a lot of ways is where can I find some grounding on the rules to follow that I will be okay and you can't prove otherwise.
Yeah. Modern day Pharisees.
Yes, modern day Pharisees, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And I know with, for example, sexual abuse, a lot of predators and pedophiles have been abused themselves, and that is that the same with emotional abuse, that a lot of the people that are struggling with this in adulthood, it's because they grew up in environments at home where that they were abused. I mean, we're going to switch now to talking about the impact this has on the family. Is that like, are we creating emotional abusive people by them growing up in an emotionally abusive home? Is that then creating the cycle to grow?
Indeed. I don't know any story that doesn't have that as the backstory. Dr. Hawkins, I don't know about you, but it always
Totally.
something.
Well, totally. So again, looking at it through a lens of emotional arrested development. And I'm not trying
Mm-hmm.
to be cute with the term, but arrested development. What I remember a study, Kyle. Once I read a study where the number one way to help a child in school to not become aggressive and become a sociopath is teach them to talk about their feelings. I know that sounds very mushy and very like, really? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Teach them to identify what they're feeling, to own what they're feeling, to be able to talk about what they're feeling, to be able to get their needs met in an effective way. So exactly 100% of the men in our programs who have arrested development, and all of them do, they come from troubled
Yeah.
homes where they did not learn the language of feelings and how to share and how to cooperate, collaborate, all those really wonderful things that I think we sometimes take for granted. But man,
Yeah.
a
It's
lot of folks
interesting.
didn't get that training.
Yeah, in part of my own story, I was 9 when I went to the psych ward, and the first room that they showed me was the rubber room, and so where you would have to go
Oh
if you blew your
my.
top. And they said if you blow your top again, if you have your temper again, you're going to go in this room. And I decided from then on I wasn't going to blow up anymore because I would not let myself be that controlled. But I also had to keep everything inside from then on. And
Mhm.
it still comes out in other unhealthy ways because you can't keep it inside. But the opposite of identifying them and be like, hey, what's actually going on? It was just like I was put in a system, suppress it, and not they got what they wanted. I was now, an obedient child and fell in line, which happens in a lot of religious circles and things like that. But you're actually not creating, someone who will then become emotionally healthy later on in life. And it's been a challenge to learn over the past years to when those
Mhm.
feelings come up, how to manage that, how to communicate that.
It it's big work. I mean, I'm of a certain age, and I have to kind of keep reminding myself, here is the way to act in this marriage, David. Here is the way to be. Here's you've got your feelings hurt. Here is the thing to do, and I'm still clunky with it. And I teach it, and I'm of a certain age, and and it's still clunky. So, man alive, when we get a 50-year-old, 55-year-old man who comes in and says, man, I am in over my head, and we say, thank you for being here, and thank you for acknowledging you are in over your head. And by
Yeah.
the way, you
Yeah.
are in over your head. And now let's talk about what to do about that. But I mean, if you look around in society, people are just
Yeah.
they're playing bumper cars or collision. What's that called? Collision derby. Just bam, bam. But there's
Yeah.
bumping like,
Yeah, I mean, if
okay,
they've admitted that the fact that they're in over their head, I always see that as the biggest win because
wonderful,
you can't
wonderful.
move forward unless they acknowledge there's something wrong first. So
Yeah,
what it?
Kyle, that's a
Yeah,
key word, Kyle. I'm just gonna tap into that. What Dr. Hawkins is saying, and what I see is acknowledgement is so key. Like whenever I have someone like Kyle who hasn't learned to express, but he learned to suppress his emotions so that he could get along in society, the he had a lack of acknowledgement for his emotional expression. So it isn't just us talking about it and naming it. There's someone needs to acknowledge it. So what's making people become more emotionally abusive than others is there's two things. There's a expression authentically, and then there's a viewer, someone who sees it, a mirror that says, yeah, you're okay. You're acceptable. I acknowledge your feelings. They're real. You are real. Your
Hmm.
emotional world is real. They need a feedback that gives them okay, my dad just saw me say that. What does he do about it? My mom just saw me say that. What does she do about it? It gives us a feedback of who we are in our development that is so key so that we could give and receive emotionality. And so emotional abuse comes when you didn't get that how
mm,
to receive and give emotionality. You abuse emotionally all the time because you don't know how to handle it. It's an abuse of emotion.
yeah.
Just think about the word, right?
Yeah. Ironically, it's like adults treating kids like adults, and it's causing them to be kids when they are adults.
Hmm.
Indeed.
uh,
Hmm.
like they're not being discipled. I always think the word discipline was a big thing for me growing up. Like we need to discipline our kids, and that meant like physically abusive or like tell them to shut up. But it didn't mean from what it actually means is to disciple. We need to
Mhm.
disciple our kids, come
I love it.
alongside them. That's a big difference. So, okay, I want to switch to the impact this has on the home. So, what is we've talked about in the last episode what the impact it has on the spouse. What about the kids and the home in general? Go ahead, Dr. Hawkins.
Well, I'm going to give it to Ernest. This is
Okay.
what he
Okay.
deals with every day. So,
Yeah. So you just think about, I use the term create an environment. We're creating an environment all the time emotionally in our intimate relationships, either because there is a void or an absence, which is usually emotionally abusive. There's a void or an absence. When I think about narcissism, emotional abuse, I think of not what they do, but what they don't do, what is more missing or needed or
Mm.
lacking, right? A lot of lack of words Dr. Hawkins used to describe it, lack of something. And so when you have that lack of that emotionality in the home, then there is a lack of identity formation in people. And so there are ways that we cope with those identity needs. We cope with it with maybe acting out in some other way because we don't know how to express our emotion by talking it out. Therefore, we're going to act it out. And acting
As a kid already, kids are starting to do this. They
yeah,
can't
as
talk
kids
about it.
already, they're already acting out their emotion instead of being able to talk it out because they don't get that acknowledgement I talked about just a
Mm.
few minutes ago. They're getting nothingness or they're getting act right, but they're not telling anyone how to be. And so this is happening like underneath the surface all the time. And so usually a home is going to be a superficial environment. Everyone knows how to play the superficial game. It becomes a pretending. And kids don't know it's actually
Hmm.
pretending. They know something's off. The parents don't maybe even know it's pretending because that's how they grew up. And so this environment has a void or an absence of emotional relating. So what ends up taking that space is performance, needing to perform regardless of your emotions. And that suppressed emotions going to come out in behaviors. It might be drugs, it might be alcohol, it might be sex, pornography, big one, pornography, especially in the church, because pornography doesn't require you to have an emotional connection, but yet you still feel some pseudo connection at that moment, right? So you just think
Mm.
about this and you go, yeah, relationships that are inappropriate for children. But even with that stuff removed, the thing I see the most is this responsibility shift, right? If narcissism and emotional abuse is a responsibility deficit disorder, like Dr. Hawkins has coined, then you see that someone else has to take that responsibility. And so mom takes some of that responsibility if dad is the narcissist in the home, and the kids start taking the responsibility. They are responsible for dad's feelings. That's what ends up being their environment. How is dad doing? Is dad okay? Now dad's coming home. We have to get into a different mode of being
Oh,
when dad.
okay.
That eggshell environment is what's created.
Mm.
And therefore, now my performance in life is crucial to me feeling loved. If I don't have performance in life, it's crushing to me. I can't handle the shame of it. It sounds familiar to what the narcissist and emotional abuser is dealing with. That
Mm.
shame, sensitive. I can't handle the shame of failing or being a failure. I feel unloved. I feel abandoned, unaccepted. So all these things come about underneath the surface. There's a lack of togetherness and connection, and so people are trying to find their way, but in reference to their father's eyes or their mother, if she's
Yeah.
also maybe being emotionally abusive. So,
What if the dad is completely absent? Like if he's only ever working, like what? Because then it's not eggshells because he's not even reacting to good or bad. He's just not there. Like what impact? What do the kids start doing then?
so what's really counterintuitive is the same type of things happen because guess what? There's nothing to refer to. There's no acknowledgement. If he's absent, then there's no acknowledgement either. And they start to do the same things that would give them some notoriety, some value, some, hey, dad, look at me.
Mm.
Can you watch me? Am I valuable enough for you now to pay attention to me? And so there is an acting out emotionally as well. It might be a little bit different ways, but um, what I find is that most of the men that we work with are workaholics. They are absent. They don't spend the same time connecting with their family that maybe other men would. And so even when they are home, it's like emotionally, whatever's happening to you in life, it doesn't go away with time. So
I
wherever
want to
last time you engaged with dad, that's the same place you're going to be at, even if he's been gone for 10 days.
Hmm.
I
You're
want to weave in one more topic here on this topic, Ernest. So remember, so he is neglecting his family. All right, we all get that. Now, remember though, he's neglecting his wife as well. Now, remember what I said about pain is cumulative. So what now? So, Ernest, speak to that. What happens if she's been married for 20 years. She doesn't feel good. I mean, she feels bad. She's her health is now impacted. She's got headaches, she got migraines, she's got sleep issues, she's anxious because she's being abandoned and neglected. So it isn't just, I don't think we should think about it as just that, oh, mom is there, she's healthy, she's happy. There's a happy, healthy home. It is not a healthy, happy home.
Mhm,
She is now, and I know I'm using stereotypes, but she's become depressed. She
mhm.
is anxious. So now the quality of her relationship with the children has been impacted. Like you think about the mobile, okay, we can just say dad is absent. Well, I don't think Ernest, speak to that.
Yeah.
What then happens to the rest of the family?
Yeah, great point. I'm working with the family right now where they're in that phase of expressing the adult children are expressing their relationship with their mom and father. And they're recognizing that mom began to shut down and mom wasn't emotionally available because she was under siege and she was holding it together and barely, but holding it together. And so she didn't have the space to emotionally relate. She would tell them more about rules and relationship because relationship takes a different energy. And if you don't have that space for that, you're trying to just get through the next day. So true, true, true. What you're saying, Dr. Hawkins, there is a cumulative effect on the spouse and then how they are towards the children as well. It's a huge deal. So
So I feel like
moms,
anger as well, and different emotions, and that anger is then spilling out on the kids. And
And she's been over functioning. She's
mm-hmm,
been, to your point, Ernest, she's been carrying this load. I mean, and I think we got to think about that, like carrying the load. She's reading books. She's doing, man, for years and years and years, she's just trying to put things back together to create emotional integrity, cohesion in the family. And man, she is swimming upstream.
yeah.
So it's not just as simple as mom is home and fine, and so the kids will rebound because mom isn't necessarily in a good place.
Mm-hmm. And the kids will start to think, unfortunately, what is mom doing wrong? Because she's the one that they're seeing, and maybe mom begins to have the pressure of being different. You know, if she's working on making things right, she's putting all of her energy into that.
yeah,
Like
especially
Dr.
if dad's not around, you can't. There's nothing specific you can point to that he did wrong. But at least with
Oh,
mom, there's something there specifically you can point to.
yeah.
I'm curious as these kids from these families become adults and they start to think about their childhood and the ways that they've been impacted by their parents. I see it a lot of times where they have a really hard time shifting any blame on their parents for how they're showing up still today as adults. They think their parents are perfect and they can't get themselves to get to a spot that my dad hurt me in a certain way. And they're like, no, dad was great. He never had any, like he was fine. He was always kind to me. Yeah, sure. He beat me up a few times, and they hardcore minimize the ways that they were impacted. They are aware of. Why is that? Why is there almost a protection of the parents as the kids start becoming adults and they start to work through this?
Great question, Kyle. Man, it's an idealization of the family, right? They're learning to live by an image. So when I say superficial, I mean we're rallying around an image and we're sacrificing our sense of self to it. It's unfortunately that it's happening that way. It sounds so sad when I say it that way because it is sad. It's incredibly sad that I am idealizing everything. I'm idealizing my mother and father because that helps me to survive in the world. If I didn't, I would collapse. I need my caregiver to be better than maybe they are showing up so that I could survive. And this is all happening behind in the unconscious psychological things that we need for life. We're saying dad is doing the best he can. You know, dad is working for the family. He built these things so that we can have these experiences. The same thing he's telling himself about why he's doing what he's doing. They have that same narrative. It's a shared narrative. They're in a shared fantasy. There's a level of shared fantasizing about what's happening because we we need that narrative to be able to be okay. Whatever okay is, you're always trying to find okay. And so you're right, they're resistant to say one word about their parents. And I say, okay, well, have they ever asked you how you were doing? Do you remember the last time your parent asked you how you're doing, how you're feeling? Oh, never. Never. I didn't even want that I didn't learn to want that from my dad. I just heard this yesterday. I didn't even learn I know who he is. I just accepted that's who he is. And I would never go to him for emotional care, some kind of recognition. And I'm okay with that. And I go, are you okay with that? Are you okay? And we go a little bit deeper. And then all of a sudden the well works come out and they're really getting in touch with that feeling of that absence of not being seen that way. And so the superficial is holding the ground so that underneath all the stuff that is really painful won't get touched.
So I can see why then it's worse in church communities because that whole thing gets amplified.
Yes. Yes.
I see some extremes. I'd love for you to ping off this, Ernest. I see some extremes in these 18, 20, 22, 24-year-old kids. There are some that become enmeshed and like, I've got to help mom and dad figure this out. I mean, I'm got to da 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 da. And some are like, I'm out of here. I am so out of here. I'm going to college, and man, I'll write in about 10 years. I'm like, I am gone. And I don't see many that are kind of balanced, that are able to make sense out of it. They're like either they're enmeshed in it, or they're do you see those extremes, Ernest?
Yeah, indeed. I think that's I mean, to use the term splitting, I think it goes to that level where all good or all bad is how I have to view it. I don't know how to do the gray, the middle, the balance, the both and so I just do the man, all good, untouchable, idealized, or all bad, get away from me. I have to get away from you as far as I can because they're needing some way to develop their sense of self.
So how do you deal with that then? Because there's a lot of people in that position where they know there's something that went totally south growing up. They can't necessarily really identify it, but these are still their parents. They still love their parents and want some sort of relationship with them, but they're also dealing with this deep hurt. So how do you counsel people not to put it in the all bad or in the all good camp, but to somehow move forward? Do you tell them, hey, you need a segment of time for a couple of years to back off and figure yourself out? Like, what do you talk to people about on that topic?
Well, so I want them to get in touch with that, which distinguishes that, which is the feelings world, right? So the feelings world is going to say, I love my dad, but I love my mom, but they did the best that they could. I believe it. And I feel this way. And I had this experience. And I'm going to drum it up to get some acknowledgement from those parents. So in sessions, I ask them questions like, if you could tell your loved one, your parent, anything, and you knew it would be received well, what would you tell them? And all the things that they knew that they needed to say, but it wouldn't be received well, come to the surface. And so they're able to start integrating their relationship of loving their parent, honoring their parent, especially people of faith, and also knowing they could still be hurt. There's still pain there. There's still disappointment, rejection. And so I have to get them in touch with their feeling world and not denying them for the idealized version they want to have of their childhood. And it's difficult.
I want to bring up another extreme, Kyle and Ernest. I am shocked at the number of families that have family estrangement, meaning one of the children has said, so we have this 45-year-old couple, and they say, yeah, we have 3 children. We have not talked to one of them in 5 years. Like, what? Really? And I mean, it's incredibly frequent. where there is a child or multiple children who have just said, I'm out of, I'm so out of here that, and then the parents end up sort of adapting to it, accommodating, like, okay, Susan's not going to talk to us, so we won't even, I mean, she's not part of our family, not part of our world. And like, wow, really? And Johnny and whoever the name is, they've pushed away. Ernest, what kind of frequency do you see that where there is a brokenness and there's a lack of attention to this child's feelings, and so they have said, I, I'm
I'm
out
out.
of here. I'm
I
out.
can't. Yeah,
I'm
I
tapped
can't
out.
get acknowledgement. I'm trying to receive some acknowledgement for this reality that I lived in, and my parent is not able to acknowledge it. They're not able to acknowledge it at the level where I start to feel like I can draw closer. And so my only option, I believe, is kind of like what Dr. Hawkins was saying. Either I go far away or I'm enmeshed. Either
Hmm.
I'm like this in the relationship or I'm like this distant in the relationship. But doing this right here, being close in proximity, is the challenge for all relationships.
Yeah.
This is intimacy. This isn't intimacy. This is enmeshment. This is we're the same organism. This is we're an extension of each other. This is we're moving an ideal version of our relationship and not a real one. This
Yeah.
one is a mirror.
So
This is
so it causes a lot of conflict between siblings then too, because the ones that maybe aren't aware of how their parents showed up in a negative way are protecting their parents and mad at the other sibling that they're avoiding them
Totally.
and not talking to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Someone becomes a scapegoat. Someone
Yeah.
becomes the problem child. Keeps bringing up all the issues. They're usually the ones that call me the problem child who wants to change, who
Yeah.
wants things to change in the environment, and they're being ousted. It's like if you would just sit down and shut up, we could be a happy family again. Happy.
We could pretend.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
pretend. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had that. Someone communicated that to me in the last year. Just like, well, you can go there and just pretend, can't you? I'm like, that's what I don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Often families, I think, normalize dysfunction instead of naming it. But I think that normalizing the dysfunction is because they don't have a category for something else. They don't have a category for a different way that families can operate. Do you see that as well? Where like I just this and part of the problem, I guess, of why this keeps happening generationally is because
I
it's just
I want to speak to that. I again back to this 45-year-old woman, what she tells me again and again and again and again and again. I mean, I really have heard hundreds of these stories. She says, "You know what? I stayed because the kids were in soccer and we went to church, and he's working and I'm working, and the kids go have piano lessons, and it just became life." And frog in the kettle, I didn't realize until 15, 20, 25 years later that, like, man alive, what have we become? But it's insidious. And so, and I don't judge her or them for coming to us 25 years later, but frog in the kettle. I mean, no, the water's not hot. It's okay. We can handle this. It'll get better. We're all right. It's good. We're going to church. We're doing things. We're da 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 da, and so insidious pain that finally has to become overwhelming for somebody.
so. If there's
But
a someone
Ernest,
listening in
yeah,
their if there's someone listening in their 30s that's been married for 5 or 10 years, what are the warning signs? What are the things that they can like
uh,
need to hammer on now to make sure that they're not the cooked frog at 50?
Ernest has got a great recipe for.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to have you talk, Ernest, about the
Uh,
reality issues, the
uh-huh.
repair
Safety.
issues, the safety issues. Ernest
Mm-hmm.
has got this. Here's a kind of a checklist, if that's appropriate, Ernest.
Yeah, so I look for safety. Can I, when I express my emotion, is there some kind of feedback that I can count on that will bring me some safety? If I say ouch, what happens? If I'm hurt and I'm expressing myself, what happens? Am I more apt to do it less because of the response of my spouse? Or am I encouraged to do more of it because of the response of my spouse? Safety. Am I able to say ouch and get an acknowledgement of ouch? Or do I have to explain it and try to prove that I'm hurt? That's a key thing. Am I proving and explaining why I'm hurt more than someone just saying, I'm sorry you're hurt? So, and there's degrees to that. Some people are not good at it at the beginning, but they'll sit with it and they'll come back to you and they'll say, you know what, I thought about that and I'm sorry. So even that's a key. Does a person sit with your pain and think about it, or do they lose track of it completely and reset the next day as if it never happened?
Hmm.
If they're resetting as if it never happened, then you're not going to be able to gain intimacy. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse over time, subtly but surely. If there's no intervention, it's going to get worse over time. And so, safety. How do I feel with this person? Am I feeling less and less emotionally safe? Is it we try for a season and for a month it goes great, but then it goes back to being like estrangement in the home in the same bed? Do we feel estranged at times, and does it have a cycle to it? So I'm just tracking this year after year. I say, yeah, man, we do great during the holidays because there's vacation, there's time off, but in between
Hmm.
that, it's really horrible. Actually, I'm just trying to exist.
Hmm.
I'm waiting for the next holiday to come to get some relief. That's not a good recipe for a relationship. There's something that's unsafe about that. All right. So then there's reality.
By the way, everybody should do checklists here. Safety.
Yeah.
He's got three categories: safety,
Yeah.
reality, and repair. And
Uh-huh.
these are, boy, oh boy, oh boy, everybody. Just be listening to this and doing your checklist.
Yeah.
Where are we at with this?
I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and also maybe that's integrated into it, but saying I'm sorry. Like, when's the last time you heard your spouse say, "Hey, and actually openly acknowledge something"? Because I think in a lot of these situations that never happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Acknowledgement is key. It stops the bleeding of relationships, I say. Acknowledgement stops the bleeding. There's no acknowledgement, and there's magical thinking, which means, oh, it'll be fine. Oh, it'll be fine. Oh, it'll be fine. That
Hmm.
level of it'll be fine, if it is persistent in a pattern, because we're talking about patterns, people. I don't want you to think this one-off situation happened and my spouse is narcissistic. No, it's a pattern that continues on, that's pervasive. So a pervasive pattern of feeling unsafe when I'm vulnerable.
Mm.
I feel unsafe when I'm vulnerable as a pattern. Um, Also, and this comes out especially when you're dealing with someone's family or your family in law. How does your spouse protect you or present you to his
Hmm.
family or to her family? How do they present you? Who gets priority? Does mom get priority over you, your mother in law, your father in law, their siblings? Do you see a prioritizing happening of their emotions over your emotions? That's a telltale sign there might be something going on. So
Mm.
there's something unsafe about that. You're going to be pictured as the problem over time, for sure. Reality. The second point is reality. Reality testing happens all the time with us human beings. We're testing reality to say how I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. Is it real? So we're testing it to see it all the time. That's that mirror effect I talked about earlier. If I don't have that with another spouse, um, if I say how you hurt me and you say it never happened,
Hmm.
reality testing gone wrong. If
Mm.
I say that you missed coming to something and you say no, I was there, there's something wrong with the reality testing process.
And why
And
is it that the person that's denying it, like it's like they can't handle guilt. The feeling of guilt is something that like they will resist to the 10th degree, which is ironic that it happens so much in churches because we need to be guilty to accept Christ.
right.
But why is it that that feeling of guilt is something that they resist so much, where they can't, allow themselves to feel that?
Yeah, shame sensitivity. You use that term a lot. Very shame sensitive. It's if you're not able to process shame into something that will help you be better in your character and the way you connect with people. If you never had that experience consistently, you think shame is dying
Mm.
because it's dying of this false self that you don't know you've created. But the shame is feels like dying.
It's not real.
Yeah,
But what's dying is the not real person, right? It's the
yes,
image.
the not real image of you being perfect, and perfect means you can be loved. So therefore, if you're not perfect, you're not loved, and if you're not loved,
Mm,
then you're dying. That's kind of the whole kit and caboodle, right?
mm,
So like shame sensitivity is huge. How does your spouse handle shameful events? Do they come with remorse? Does it turn into remorse? I'm sorry. I remember that. Last time this happened, oh man, it was tough. I don't want that to happen to you again. I
mm.
never want you to feel that way again, is one of the statements I always want to hear. Do you never want that to be their experience again? Or do you have a feeling that is attached to their experience more than just yours?
Yeah.
So if you
What?
only said yours, then that's the problem. You're only saying, I felt bad about that. I regret that. I never want to do that again. That's not relational.
Mm,
That's securing your protective environment for your perfected image. It's image management,
mm.
what we call it. So if my reality is coming up against your reality and I'm being denied it because you're protecting this image, then there is indeed something
Yep.
going. It's pervasive though. It has to be a pattern.
Yeah.
Okay. So gaslighting, terms like that, um,
Rewriting history,
rewriting history. Yep. Mm-hmm.
forgetting,
Mm-hmm.
emotional bypassing. And by the way, everybody, these are skills. Here's the good news of woven in. These are skills that can be learned. So
Yeah.
again, we can grow up. We can become more emotionally integrous. We can, anyway, so safety issues can be dealt with. Reality issues can be dealt with, but you can't change what you don't own. So if, no, I don't have any reality issues. No, my relationship with my wife is perfectly safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, no, no. No.
Yeah. I want to
So
go on. I want to go on a little tangent here. I'm curious, as these guys or women that are emotionally immature show up in different organizations, like the council or the consistory of a church, or on a board of a company, or in leadership. How does that? How do these problems have an impact there? Because I think a lot of, I mean, if there's as many of them as there are, they're for sure running these bigger organizations. So does that have how does that impact the organization? How does that impact a church when, they're,
the same way it does a family, just to maybe a lesser,
Yep.
more subtle extent, you know?
okay.
People start to learn how to deal in image management. Everyone's
Uh,
dealing in image management, and their emotional impact of each other doesn't matter as much. And it continues to trend downward probably until people say, you know what, either this really fits what I need because I need a rule based environment and I don't want to deal with emotions either. So therefore, more people who are more narcissistic collect, around that type of environment, or I am a codependent person who also needs the rules because I also want outcomes, and I end up having um, that being a place where I may thrive, but I'm going to die on the vine because of how much I have to give of myself. There's no feedback in that environment. So I just think about work environments and bosses that have been narcissistic in my client's life, and even in my own life. And yeah, it does drain you. It sucks the life out of you unless you're very motivated by what you're going to get out of it. You're more
yeah.
performance based. It's going to be really hard to survive. It will do a number on us.
Yeah. Actually, I heard of someone recently that said they were still going to church. They didn't believe anything what they heard, but leaving was going to have caused too big of a problem in their family. So they just go every Sunday, but they don't believe any of it. But just because that will like keep their
Wow.
environment going.
Man, ideal. The image. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man, it's tough. Nothing really lives in that environment. And so I think about this environment created as no one's really living. We're performing to an idol.
Yeah.
If I can say that right now and interject that. When we think about Old Testament, there's idols and we go, man, those people, man, they carve little things and worship them, like we think it's silly. But we do the same. It's just inside of our heart because now the temple is inside of our heart.
Yeah.
Everything going on inside of our heart now happened in the Old Testament outside.
Yeah.
So I idolize things. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to worship and sacrifice your reality to my idol. If I'm in a relationship 5, 10 years in, my reality is going to be guarding this idol, this perfection, this way of seeing me more than protecting or providing for you to live in your reality. And so over and over again, I'm left with this feeling if I'm the spouse who's 5, 10 years in, am I crazy? Did that really happen? Am I just making things up?
Yeah.
Am I too sensitive? And then you start asking people to help you realize that if that's the case. And the insidiousness of emotional abuse is that most people, if they know your spouse, won't feel that, won't have that experience in the same way you do. And so, therefore, you're not really able to get reality testing done well with people who have a different experience of your spouse, because it only really comes out when the intimate relationship is threatened.
Yeah.
When the image of the person who you're closest to is threatened. If they see you a certain way, you're very reactive to guard that, because however they see you feels like the measure if you're lovable or not, if you're acceptable or not, if you are valuable in the world or not. And so the whole time, the person who is narcissistic or doing emotional abuse is suffering from this paradigm that's really difficult. They are suffering. They're in pain too. And I know that's tough to hear with someone who's dealt with it for years and years and years. But what I found was it helped me make sense of their motivation. It helped me make sense of why they did what they did, and helped me to understand that this is maybe it's more about them than it has ever been about me and my character.
Yeah. Protecting themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So viewers, if you remember, folks, we're going through 3 indicators of emotional abuse in a family system. 3 indicators: safety, reality, and now we're going to talk about repair. Safety, reality, and repair. Safety is how I feel when I'm vulnerable. What happens when vulnerability comes to play in my relationship? Does it feel safe as a pattern? Reality. When I speak about what I'm hurt about, is there denial, gaslighting, rewriting history, just plain out denial of the reality of what happened? We're all looking for reality testing. And if that fails in my relationship, there's an absence or a void. That's emotional abuse. And then repair. Our third topic is repair. If when things are ruptured, that's the word we like to use, ruptured, which means something happened where I was hurt by something you did, said, or failed to do. Something that affected me, had an impact on me, and I bring it to you. How does it get resolved? Is there repair? And I often talk to the guys in our group about 2 levels of repair. One of them is going to deal with reality testing. The reality of it is, yes, I did it. Owning it. Yep, I did that. Yep, I was there. Yep, I missed it. Yep, I did the wrong thing or the hurtful thing. That's one level, my behavior. I need to be able to own that. The second level is the impact it has on you. Yes, I can own and acknowledge that it had an impact on you, and here's what it did to you. It made you feel alone, abandoned, probably really angry, hurt. You felt betrayed. Can I own the impact, not just the behavior, but the impact of it, and then be able to give a apology that's sincere about that impact that it had on you? It's much more important, in my estimation, to apologize for the impact than for the actual behavior. Behavior is going to happen. Problems are going to arise in relationships. That's what makes them actually good. That's how you get close to people. That's how you gain love and appreciation and connection, right? There's problems. We need antagonism in our relationships.
So
What happened?
I can hear a lot of guys say, "I never meant to hurt you.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
never meant." And then so they say for some reason that says that they're not guilty. But if you drive over somebody by accident, or on purpose, the result is you just got driven over. And
Uh-huh.
so is that something you need to constantly differentiate for the guys, that, hey, just because you didn't mean to doesn't mean it didn't have that huge impact?
100%. Intentions versus impact, Kyle. So a guy was new. He is doing an assessment with you yesterday. I'll give you this short story. He said, Ernest, I always believe that if I hurt you and I didn't mean to hurt you, I could not be at fault.
Wow.
If I
Yeah.
didn't mean to hurt you, I cannot be at fault. Like I could not. Not that I don't want to be at fault, but I could not be. It has to be you.
Hmm.
It has to be your issue if I didn't mean to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so I said, wow, okay, you're in the right place, sir. Let's get to work. Because if you're already there, that's a key revelation for a person, that they have to believe that that is a thinking error.
Yeah.
Big thinking error, you know?
And we teach men that repair is not likely a one-time event. So we've got this phrase called holding the wound open.
Mhm.
Like,
Hmm.
sir, you need to deal with it today, and likely again, and very possibly again and again and again. It's like, no, one and done, baby, one and done. I mean, I'll say I'm sorry, and then I want exoneration. I want forgiveness, and
Yeah.
I'm going to demand it.
Yeah.
And like, oh man, you can hear where this just goes so awry. No, you're going to have to sit with her pain again and maybe again and again. How long will it take, Dr. Hawkins? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
So,
know.
so what's the difference of sitting with the pain that your spouse is describing to you, versus having a reaction to it? Like if someone really hurts us, for example, we can get really angry and then become an angry person and say, well, I'm an angry person because you hurt me. But then there's also responsibility to say, hey, just because we've been hurt a certain way doesn't now give us the right to go hurt back or like continue our negative behavior. So how do you teach that responsibility of like, like, yes, I've been hurt really badly, but now this doesn't give me now an excuse to go, be, an angry
I,
mom or whatever that is.
I'm anxious to hear Ernest's answer, but my response, Kyle, is I don't often see men who really sit with the pain, who have done a really good job at repairing the rupture. So while he may say she's just an angry woman, I mean, you're not going to believe this, Dr. Hawkins. I don't see it very often, Kyle, where the responsibility, where she has in some way failed to access healing. Most of the women I work with are want healing. They're anxious to get back into relationship. In fact, they still have many of those behaviors. So while your issue, I'm sure, is an issue out there, I don't see it often. But Ernest,
Yeah, and if it is there, then the woman will say, if we're using the man as the narcissistic person, can acknowledge it. They're not acting as if it didn't happen. They're not screwing with the reality testing.
Yeah.
They can provide safety if the husband comes vulnerably with his hurt. They can. They have the space for that. But the husband is not tracking that. He's tracking this need to be uh, sacrificed to, almost because of his pain is so great. Remember, I talked about that's the grandiose feature I think happens on the inside for covert people, is that my hurt's way bigger than yours, and I want you to hurt as much as I do.
Hmm.
Secret thing that they don't want to tell themselves because it's shameful is that I want you to hurt as much as I do. So when she says, I'm sorry you're hurt, it's not enough for him. So therefore, he almost denies the reparative strategy that a wife would have to say, I'm sorry I hurt you.
Yeah.
And so then she finds out that she gets berated when she says, I'm sorry I hurt you. So guess what she stops doing?
Mm-hmm.
Saying, I'm sorry I hurt you. That's a setup. I'm going to come out with my armor off and you're going to stab me again because you want me to feel more pain.
Yeah.
And so the guys have to get honest with themselves about that happening. There is a real need for them to equalize the relationship. And unfortunately, because they're shame sensitive, they feel more pain magnified when it comes to their wrongdoings or them looking like they are not good enough. And so even that's part of what we have to treat. at Marriage Recovery Center is emotional regulation. We haven't really used that term yet, but emotional regulation is so key to be able to be relatable and connectable. I can't even relate to you when you feel your pain is so big and my pain is so small.
Yeah.
And so that reality needs to be addressed before we can even get to repair. And so what we often do, Dr. Hawkins knows this, is we focus on the man and his impact on the wife only because of this disparity, this lack of responsibility for her emotions. It's so high up here that I feel this way and so low down here what she feels that we have to do this so that it starts to balance itself out over time.
Yeah.
Recalibrating.
Yeah.
I remember even in my own story, I remember my counselor saying to me, we have to deal with the pain of what you've done in infidelity before we can deal with the things that your spouse maybe has done. And not to say that aren't true, but that has to get dealt with first. So just park that. And so that was good advice. I want to go back to just the impact of kids in the home, especially kids under 10 years old. What's the difference between children who become compliant versus children who become defiant in these homes? Under the age of 10, is there a big differentiator? Because I think some kids do, become compliant and some defy. Do you see that difference?
Well, so I don't want to black and white this. So I just want to make sure that that's not, but at the end of the spectrum, you have narcissistic defenses and you have codependency. So at one end, there's narcissistic defenses that helps me to manage this relationship that doesn't have emotional expression being acknowledged. So therefore, I create these defenses to keep myself safe from being so hurt by the lack of something. Okay, so that's one way. The other way is codependent strategy that ends up being the enmeshment that Dr. Hawkins talked about, where I am codependent in the relationship. It helps me to be this close so that I'm not this far away from you to feel hurt. If I can be this close, then we're okay. If I can be this close, then we're okay. But this right here, this is a no-go right here. This is healthy relating. This is non-narcissistic, non-codependent relating. This is healthy relating, or core self relating, we call it. So those things on the spectrum, it's like I get out of healthy relating. When I'm defiant, I'm pushing up against this image, and therefore now I have to start protecting myself more and more. When I'm compliant, I start to learn how to be responsible for everyone else's emotions. My responsibility for others is high, and it's off balance now. Again, like I talked about. And so the person who's codependent will almost likely find someone who's narcissistic because that is the paradigm that they are familiar with, unless there's some intervention or some kind of treatment.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's what I see. I don't know, Dr. Hawkins, what would you say about that?
Yeah, no, I think there's those extremes, and we're looking to teach kids and parents and families how to be balanced, how to be emotionally balanced. I love the concept of pretending, not pretending, and have an emotional integrity. What is really happening here? Can we talk about what's happening in the family? Can we talk about what's happening inside of us? And this takes a lot of work. It's very sophisticated. And so, man, I mean, and if we're dealing with our own struggles, like, I don't have much capacity to help these little kids out, and yet that's what Ernest is doing every day, all day long. So,
a key word, Kyle, for us is needs. So when you talked about compliant versus defiant, I think both of those postures or strategies, if you will, on living have something to do with the lack of being able to get their needs met. So they find out other ways to get their needs met. And the codependent person or the person who is compliant gets their needs met, their validation met by being exactly who their parent wants them to be.
Yeah.
And the other guy, the other person who's defiant gets their needs met by being whoever the world wants them to be, maybe not even who they want themselves to be yet. They don't know that. Either person doesn't really know what their needs are. Yeah. And oftentimes I know guys struggle with, I say, what do you need? And they're like, I don't know what I need, Ernest. I don't know what I need. I don't
I'm
know what.
fine. I don't need anything. I'm fine. Leave me alone. I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. What do you mean? I need to do better in the world. It's like, no, what do you need as a human being?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no
Yep.
idea what I
Don't
need.
have a category for it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see through the facade of someone in this situation? And what I mean by that is you have these very, you have a doctor that's very successful or a businessman that's very successful, and they're obviously very smart, and they obviously know how to make people feel safe to a certain degree, because otherwise they wouldn't be in those positions, and people respect them. And so I can assume that someone like in church leadership that's counseling a couple and a family, that they can get fooled by the guy or the girl that's, able to, by just communicating effectively or whatever it is, that they're not the problem in the relationship, and the other person's the problem because they're the one always crying, and whatever. And so, what advice would you give to people that are helping families in this situation, into actually being able to differentiate what is bullshit and what's real?
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough question. I mean, I think you'd want to find an expert. That's the short
Yeah.
answer. Yeah, but the I think the social media world and our environment is getting up to speed. However slowly, they're getting up to speed to differentiate what is a problem in marriage and what's a problem with problems in marriage. Okay, so just retract what I'm saying. There's a problem in marriage, but how does it work out? Does it become now the problem is really the problem with problems?
Mm.
Is the problem actually that? Is it not just communication? Is it
The problem
how?
with problems, so the people can't accept the fact that there's problems, and so that's their issue. That they're like, we're fine.
Yeah, or you're ridiculous. Or look at Sandy. She's doing it again. I just kicked her underneath the table, but you didn't see that. You just see her reaction. And so, this problem with recognizing how we deal with problems is what I keep coming back to. I say, guys, it's not problems that you're struggling with, is you have a problem with problems. You have a real big problem with problems. And so
Everything has to be perfect.
yeah, exactly. The image management, the perfection, the shame of being exposed as not perfect means I'm not loved, and they don't even know that if they are coming to counseling and they're coming to pastors, they don't know that it's really tied to that, where they can't accept another person's individuality and recognize they have hurts that are not up for discussion. You don't have to prove that you're hurt. Like we start there. You're hurt. That's a given. If you can't do that, there's something else going on.
I want to capitalize on what he just said, Kyle. So, literally every 40-year-old, 45-year-old, 50-year-old woman that calls us, when I ask her, who are you talking to about this stuff? Well, no, nobody, nobody. What do you mean nobody? Oh, no, nobody would understand. Do you talk in church? Do you share? No, no. So there's this hiding. There's this, she is alone. She is incredibly alone. And when I validate her feelings, she starts sobbing. That happens all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm.
the time.
Mm.
So what can we do? We as a church, we as a community, we as a society, man, we've got to say to this family, you're hurting, and we can talk about it. But we got to make it safe to talk about it. So I mean, so if like no, my poop doesn't stink, I don't, no, I'm not in any pain. I'm good, no, we're hurting. We're hurting. Come out of hiding. And so we have to make it okay to come out of hiding. And we're doing that ever so slowly, I think. But man, we've got to say, look, here's what health looks like, and here's what you're experiencing, and it's not okay. And it's okay to feel not okay. It's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
okay. So,
You
and the
said,
men, back to the men, we've got to look, it's okay to say, I'm in over my head. I am in way over my head. I don't know what I'm doing here.
mm-hmm.
mm,
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Now we can talk. And
yeah.
ma'am, you're hurting, you're depressed, you're anxious, you got physiological. We can talk about it. Come on, let's. So anyway, we need to make it safe to name. This is an epidemic. I told you that before, Kyle. This issue of emotional abuse and narcissistic abuse. It's an epidemic. I mean, it is. It's bigger than any of us could imagine, I think.
Yeah, yeah. How do you ever draw a picture or ask the guys to dream about what it could be if you heal as a motivator? Because a lot of times I think they don't even have a category for what better could be, and it can be a huge motivator. It was one of the things I did in my marriage recovery was we had to our counselor both got us to create a dream of 5 years from now where we could be, and then we had to share that and talk about that. And it was just like, it was big, but how do you communicate that to a guy to be like, hey, if you choose to own your crap and if you choose to work on this is what will happen in X amount of years, and this is how it will impact your kids. Do you guys, is that part of your program, or how do you communicate that?
So I always go to, for a specific reason, Kyle, I always go to children's children. And partially because the word of God states that, and also because I know how valuable and powerful it is when you think about someone who um, you're responsible for, but yet have 100% compassion for. So a lot of the people we work with, they have mixed feelings about their spouse. They have mixed feelings even about their children and how their children see them. But their grandchildren, they have a clear picture of compassion is like 100%. And so it really motivates them when I say, this is going to affect your children's children, your legacy, what you're going to leave on the earth. And it ties
Yep.
into something deep for every man, especially.
Mm,
And also the women, they're like, yes, but the man really grabs a hold of that and says, now, even if they don't stay together, that is lodged into their system as a worthy cause to die for. And so this is the level when I talked about feeling like I'm dying when the shame comes, like this is a worthy cause to die for. I want something better for my children's children. I don't want them to grow up like I did. I want them to have a fruitful, fulfilling life. I don't want this for them, and I can do something about it. Thank you. I'm all in. I'm all
mm,
in. Keep it going until I die, and that's where I see the most growth in the men we work with.
mm. Dr.
And they
Harvey?
get excited about this stuff, by the way. And that
Mm,
also shocks people when we say that. Like, not only are men coming and they're involved in our men's core program, but they like it.
mm,
Mhm.
Like it? Really? Yeah. Growth is addicting in a way. It's kind of
yeah.
cool. We
And
can
it's real.
grow up. It's real. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have any examples of someone you've worked with? Obviously, you can't share names of where someone chose to really work on this, and it had a big impact on the family and relationships. Maybe even with adult kids started improving and things started changing. Any of those stories that you could share?
Yeah. So I got a photo probably a couple weeks ago, as you can imagine, through the holidays. I got a photo of this family that was a family that also Dr. Hawkins worked with, but I won't name them. And so we did some work together with this family. We did some work separately with this family, and then I did some work with all the adult children and their spouses. And
yep.
when I saw the photo, I mean, it's really true how a photo can say 1,000 words. I saw the photo and the way they were organized together, and you would have been, it was just amazing. It was like a God shot of this is why you do what you do. Thank you, Ernest, for all you
Ah,
contributed to our family that was fractured at multiple levels. We're talking
yep.
about three generations,
Mm,
grandpa, grandchildren, all the way down to grandchildren, even the great grandparents who were the parents of the couple we first started talking with. Everyone is affected when the family system gets aligned. And so they started to come to a place where they could do this. It was no longer my pain, or your pain, my pain, all the things that we did in the past. It was like we are together working at this lack of responsibility for relational issues, and we're going to that together. And It's probably a year and a half. So I want the listeners to know this is a journey. It has to
Year
be.
and a half is fast.
Yeah. Well, and they already probably had a running start of 10 years of counseling and
Mm.
intensives and marriage intensives and other
Yep,
things that
yep,
once they come to us, right, Dr. Hawkins, they have like a whole decade
totally.
probably. So, hmm
And so, was it the picture that you could see it on the picture that they were better? Because I grew up in a community where every Christmas, everyone sends out a Christmas card picture and it says Merry Christmas, and everyone looks happy. And I
hmm
remember telling my mom about mine hanging on the wall like 4 or 5 years ago during my separations. I'm like, Mom, that's fraud. You know,
hmm
that's just what you do to make everyone look, pretend it's all good. But
Great point.
well,
Great point, Kyle. Well, because I know the hard work that they did and they became really honest with each other emotionally, I knew that that had to be real. They
mm,
had already vowed to stop pretending. And that's this key word today is like, I think pretending is huge. If I can think, where am I pretending? And so they were adamant at not pretending anymore. They said painful, hard things that they needed to work through, and they sat with it and they
mm,
sat with it and they sat with it day after day, week after week. And they caused some real resolve to occur. And so, even after we stopped counseling with them, it's like the system started to move in the right direction where it could start to bear
Mm,
all by itself after that. That's what I believe. The family system can
mm,
heal itself if it's properly aligned. And
mm,
so, what I saw was an alignment of all of their real selves, not the pretend. And so you're right, Kyle. It could be an image, but the way that mom, who was the hub of it, described what was happening and how they felt during that time was also big for me to see. Because when you've been doing this for a while, and I know Dr. Hawkins would say this, like you really see how language reveals your position, how we say, what word choice we use, how we use it to structure a sentence or express ourselves tells us a lot about where you're at inside. And so that's why I
mm.
think we don't get fooled by um, the stories of couples because we are tracking how they're using language. I don't know if I'd use that word. Okay, something's going on there, and then I hear it again, and I hear it again.
and and they have learned they by this stage of the process, they've learned how to self-correct those. Remember the safety
Yeah.
issues, the reality issues, the repair issues. They've got these skills not knocked cold, but they know how to catch it, and the children know how to catch it at when they're growing in this process. So yeah, it really does take on a whole different quality. I have many examples myself, Kyle, of uh, just men who have stayed in the program, and then the women who are in our women's core program, and then they do couples work with us, and it's just incredibly rewarding.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
I know in this process of healing, often boundaries need to get set up. And Joe, just in the vein of what we're talking about today with the impact on the family, what mistakes do kids commonly make when they first begin setting real boundaries with people in their family, if it's their parents or other people? What comes up as often a fault or a mistakes they make, and how do you do it in a good way?
That's a great question. I just was dealing with this with the family last week. The whole topic was on boundaries, and none of them knew how to set a real boundary. They were either talking about a demand or an ask, a demand or an ask. And so what they didn't notice is that that demand doesn't actually garner some connection or togetherness. It's like a rule that's being set out. You have to. And this is from the adult child's point of view. You need to. You have to. You have to stop doing this and stop doing that. And the parents are just going, whoa, and so the mistake is not knowing how to invite someone into a relationship. The invitation is so important. So my boundary is really based on wanting to garner connection, not to separate. It's really a ask to say, this is how I need to be related to so that you can draw closer to me. And so if I don't have that kind of a conversation with my loved one, then they feel like I'm just abandoning them, that they're no good anymore. They don't know they have a power to change the dynamic. So a good boundary will often feel a little threatening at the beginning, but you will start to see that you could have a better relationship with them, and they're actually telling you how they like to dance, with you, and not
Mm.
that they don't want to dance, but just how they want to dance. And it seems really simple, but it's not. It's hard when there's emotions involved, because your emotions want to be protected, and a boundary actually invites someone in, but it's specifically in a specific way. So two things: boundaries need to be an invitation to better connection. That's one, an invitation to better connection.
Mm-hmm.
Two, boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries move as the relationship either grows or diminishes. And
Mm.
so if it grows, if there's some acknowledgement of the boundary, then your boundary starts to not even be needed anymore, because relationship doesn't need rules. To the degree that we're falling out of relationship, we need rules. That's
Mm.
where rules come from, right? 10 Commandments. You children of Israel, the world, you're not doing well. You need rules because your relationship skills
Mm.
are.
Yeah.
Christ
Yeah.
comes and says, listen, if you're in relationship, you will fulfill all of the law.
Mm.
So the same thing occurs with us in relationships and in families. I don't need the rule anymore if the relationship is right. And so I need to know when that's the case, and the boundaries will help shape that. So they're
Yeah.
not walls. There's not something I never want to talk to you again, although that may be how a parent who's dealing with emotionally abusive ways feels. But I do want to talk to you like this. That's what I find in boundaries: is what is a boundary? What's its purpose? And we be in agreement about what the boundaries are going to do for our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference between discomfort from growth and resistance to change? Because I know, as someone is on this journey to getting better, it's never a straight line up. It's jagged. It's up and down, and so you default in your old patterns again and things like that if you're actually trying to change. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're not actively fighting towards it. And so, how can someone, a spouse or a child, know what they're looking at is actual, just discomfort for the other person to change, and this is hard, versus like them not resisting it, not wanting it.
Mm. Mm. Well, I'm going to use some. Well, go ahead, Dr. Hawkins, because I think I'm going to
Oh
say
no,
what I'm going to say.
I'm just going to say I think the attitude of humility is critically important, and
Mm.
the humility is seen and experienced, and you can feel that in a person. So again, the person who we have a thing called an AFGO, another fortunate growth opportunity, where we have the men catch themselves making mistakes, but they know that mistakes are part of the growth process, and she knows that mistakes are part of the growth process, but the trajectory should be an improvement. Things get better and better and better, but it's not linear. It's not like they just get better. No, it two forward, one back, two forward, one back, two forward, two back sometimes. And the family that Ernest is talking about, boy, they've done some rocking and rolling.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm,
but the movement is in the positive direction, and the attitude on both people's parts is one of humility and tenderness and kindness. We understand, we get it, and we're choosing. And most couples that come to us choose to stay connected. They choose, even in spite of these challenges. I'm in. I want to be here, and
Yeah.
we know that, and we honor that.
Yeah.
mhm.
Ernest.
So the more, to your first question, Kyle, the more boundaries that are really good, that are really effective, the more I have boundaries around that in the relationship, the better I can handle what feels like resistance to change, but it's just really painful growth, right? I don't have to even differentiate between the two. I can actually rely on the boundary I set with the person. And so it's because it's hard to tell. I think they're so mixed together. The
Mm.
reason why we resist change is because of pain. The reason why we're struggling is because we're growing, but it's painful.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. And so I would say to any adult child who's trying to repair the relationship um, with their parent is to focus on the boundaries you need to have. And if you have good boundaries in place, and you, for example, if you create a boundary and then you don't follow through on it, then it's worse than if you never created a boundary. So any
Mm.
Totally.
you can stick with for sure. It's don't do it if you can't actually follow through with the consequence. Don't set it. Set
Mm.
something you know you can follow through on, and you can build from there. So
And an example of that could be like, hey, don't come to my house except for Saturday mornings between these 2 hours.
yeah, yeah,
Right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I'm not going to talk to you for if you do this, I'm not going to talk to you for a month. But then Christmas is coming, so then I end up talking to you, and it's like, wow, okay, that boundary didn't hold. What it was trying to communicate didn't hold. Didn't create a mold in our relationship.
Yeah. It's a bit amazing, the power of consistency. I notice it with just my son. When he's sitting on my lap, he's often squirming to get off because he knows if he squirms enough, he gets off. But when I'm putting him in his car seat, he's squirming until he hears the click. And then he stops. Because every single time he hears the click, he knows it's game over.
That's
Right?
right.
He's stuck. Like it's a consistency thing, and just the power of that I
There
always
you go.
find is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Any closing thoughts for you guys on this topic of the emotional impact of emotionally abusive parents and the impact on the family?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just close
I
it out.
just want to close by telling everyone that getting healthier is available to you.
Mm.
Wherever you are. I mean, we all start with wherever we are, and so start, and capitalizing on the 3 points that Ernest emphasized. Look at safety in your relationship. How you doing with that? Look at the reality. Are you dealing with reality? Are you in alignment with each other? Are you making repairs and move in the positive direction? And I would just add that this work is not easy work. It's incredibly rewarding. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it can be done, and we're available to coach and help and teach and walk alongside you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any family system that is willing can be repaired and begin to heal itself over time. It has everything it needs to heal itself if it's being accessed. It does. It does. Whether it takes 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, oftentimes it's going to take the rest of the time that you're in the family system to really see all the fruit of it. And you'll be amazed though because it'll start to multiply. And so it's worth the pain in the beginning because the fruit multiplies. I want to really emphasize that.
It's
Feels
never. Yeah.
yeah, feels difficult, but
Yeah.
it will be worth it if you put your energy into dying to a new way of living in your family system.
Yeah. It's like a business. Say like there's never an arrival point. You can always grow and keep getting better. But
Mhm.
also the first 2 years of any new business are usually you're not profitable. Usually you only start seeing results 2 years in. And that's just in the business world. So I always
Mm-mm.
compare it to families and relationships as well. I'll be like, don't give up after 3 months or 6 months because it's
Mm-mm.
not working. Like give it at least 2 years before you can have a good idea of like, hey, where is this
Mm.
headed? It's taken that long to get to the spot you're in. So
Great advice. Great
yeah.
advice. It's
Yep.
I hear this all the time. Ernest, I did it and it didn't work. I tried it and it didn't work. And I'm like, that's not what we're doing. We're practicing relating. It's not seeing if it gives you instant
Yeah.
results or not. Like, but that's what's been the default. I tried it, but it didn't work, and that's a rule now. I'll never try it again. And I have to help them break that and repurpose it in their mind of what relating does for individuals and families. So yeah, all can be repaired. I believe that God Himself is so mindful of families on the earth that He will do whatever it takes if we are willing vessels. We have to be willing. To the degree we're willing is the degree He will repair things. He'll make all things new, but we have to lay our own will, our own idols down.
Yeah. Yeah. We can work on ourselves because even if the relationship doesn't work out, we can still grow and be better. And then our relationships with other people will grow and be better. Yeah. Thank you
100%.
guys so much for coming on
Thank you,
again and
Kyle.
having this conversation. It's awesome. It gives me hope that there's organizations like the Marriage Recovery Center. You guys can find that at marriagerecoverycenter.com that are helping families like this and the work you do. I know Dr. Hawkins, you've written several books as well that people can find online if they're interested
Yep.
in learning more about these topics. But thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Ernest. Thanks, guys. That was awesome. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show? That would help a lot in creating more content, improving the quality of the content, putting the production value, getting more guests on, and me being able to spend more time and energy towards it. So if you're interested in doing that, you can click up here and it'll take you to a support page. But you can also subscribe to the podcast by clicking over here and doing that. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.